Hello and welcome to another ArtifactsCCG.com video, and today we are going to be doing some commentary and analysis of the quarterfinal match between Larsson and Naiman. And I'm joined here by Honestly Sarcastic.
Hi.
So unfortunately, the stream... So this is BTS stream, so everybody go check them out. They're doing lots of great content for Artifact. Unfortunately, their stream didn't cover the game until the beginning of round 2. So we can kind of reverse engineer what happened in round 1, however. And we can see that the red-green player in the bottom half of the map was able to play 0 cards round 1. And we had an Ursa trade against a Sorlakan on the right lane, likely through the play of a no accident. Anything else to add to that?
Nope, just that a Assault Ladders was played in mid.
Mm-hmm. Which is, he's pretty lucky he's got a couple creeps spawning in there now.
Yep.
It's gonna be good.
Well, he got 11 to tower, so that was definitely worth it. Just, the extra 2.
Mm-hmm. So it's green-black versus red-green. What do you think of this matchup before we get going here?
Well, so if I look at the lists, I find that the green-black deck has 2 Sorlakons. As, we all know, or any of the followers know, you love Sorla. So you have to be 100% completely on board for that deck. And you got green for the group. The control? Lycan's very good at having his creeps beat other creeps. And then you get Abaddon, who doesn't really die. So it's definitely a good combination there going for that. And red-green instead, we have Lycan, 2 Ursas, Darkseer, and Keef. So there's a lot of beef going on there. They're going to win a lot of the fights, up and up. Lycan can't really beat Ursa or Keef or even Darkseer before he would die. So we'll kind of see how this ends up progressing. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with pretty much tower damage versus some board control in the form of big fatties.
Right, especially round 4 and on with 6 Enrages in your deck. There's just no way you're going to trade into an Enrage. It's an 8 swing in a card. Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Sorry there, guys. We had a bit of technical difficulties. So, the Darkseer going into this left lane is important. The left lane is, in many ways, the best lane to win in Artifact because it goes first. And as far as draws go here, a lot of forecast cards in the red-green player's hand. Potentially going to be a lot of value.
Definitely. I expect to see the Ion Shell go on Darkseer here to kill Lycan. Yep, that's what we see.
Do you think you drop any sort of creep here? Do you try to Rebel Decoy maybe and save? Or do you just let your hero die and plan on abandoning the first lane?
You may not even have to abandon it. The question you have to run into is, do you want to stay in this lane or not? So, they could put a Rebel Decoy, then flip over, but it's really not going to get anything huge here. So, maybe just dying is the best play. But the Darkseer, if it starts to take the lane, it can just shove whatever guy into other lanes and just not make things pretty anyway. So it's going to be a kind of tough decision.
Yeah, especially since we do see the Red Mist Pillager in the red-green hand. It could have been quite bad if he'd chosen to just abandon that lane. Red Mist Pillagers can very easily take the Ancient.
Agreed. But we have a decoy swap here to keep Lycan alive, which is perfectly fine. It's going to make it much easier to kind of hold the lane while you start to take over with the second
And
mid.
that is a hero creep. Taking 11 damage right now. And that represents, 17 damage to the tower? Because you're looking at Mazzy's buff into tower and the Assault Ladder's buff.
Debbie's buff, yeah.
Oh, yes, sorry.
And yes, okay, potentially the second assault, but if we just assume that was sitting in front of Debbie, it's really just the arrow that Abaddon got with that 25%. That's a little rough because the additional 6 damage would have brought the tower down to 19. Half health makes it much easier to get, and a second assault ladder would have brought it down to 15, and that could easily go just with what's currently on the board. So we'll see if he decides to play a Savage Wolf or potentially a Bull Martyr to get the additional damage in, but he does not.
Just gonna conserve the cards, I guess.
Yep.
Move on.
And
I would have kind of liked to have seen the Savage Wolf played there. Start developing a board.
Well, so Naiman has 2 heroes coming in this round, so it's potentially Hefeclumpin or Joel decided that he didn't want to over kind of push there because he doesn't have many cards in hand, like 2 assault ladders and 3 gold items. If he pushes there and then both red heroes come in and block, there's going to be a problem. So by doing this now, he's got 2 Sorla going in the right, and we'll see if Naiman decides to put any additional help in the mid lane or put 1 right and then 1 left or 1 right, 1 mid. And from there, I expect to start seeing some of the aggression.
Mm-hmm. And the location of the creep spawn in mid could be really important. With that Devi sitting on only 1 health, not only would you block the damage to the tower, you'd also potentially kill that hero. Although with the Reptile's Signet Ring, it seems unlikely.
Yeah, that part definitely doesn't matter nearly as much. But let's see what Naiman ends up doing, because we know that the opponent has 2 Sorlas coming in. So they have no creep coming in mid. Why would they throw it in front of a Lycan? Unless they really just wanted to have it die. So there's pretty good odds it was going to come in 1 at least in lane 3, and then potentially 1 in lane 1. So the overcompensation here for Keith going to kill the Lycan will be interesting. Maybe he's trying to get one of those situations where he gets this tower and the opponent gets mid tower. But
I think he's setting up for the Ancient win here. Knowing he has a Red Mist Pillager in hand, if he can get a big enough lead here.
Maybe, but Sorla's takedown tower is really, really fast.
That is true.
You've got an assault ladders mid already, so that there's a bunch going down to the tower. I wish we had control so we can go over to lane 2 to see how much damage the tower is actually taking.
Mm-hmm. And we do also have the potential for that surge to be used. Yep. And he is sent over to the right lane.
So does that creep just super block both heroes again?
It did.
Yeah, it did. Oh my god.
Hero creep.
The Lycan slot.
That could end up being a big deal later on in the game.
But yeah, you're right, Dodd. Darkseer being able to kind of see what's going on and then move the hero around was definitely very important. So going lane 1 does make sense. He gets a better lay of the land.
I wouldn't be surprised to see the Red Mist drop here. Even if it gets answered, you force your opponent to give up a card in hand. And just the potential win condition if he doesn't answer it is pretty big.
Definitely. It gives you enough ramp because he's getting what? He would have got 9 here and then additional 1. So in theory, it would have been 13 plus the 6 from the Keef. So he would have had 19. And that would have just been enough because he would have been at 15. So if one of the 4s got blocked, he would have still been okay next round.
Yeah, it's always a hard decision when you have the Red Mist in hand, whether or not you commit it while your opponent has mana. Because in some sense, you want to save it for when it's protected. But if you just never pull the trigger, it's not going to do anything. And he decides to pull the trigger, and unfortunately, it's not going to get a whole lot done.
Yep, but the Vul Martyr also doesn't get much in just because it's trading. So the trade's really beneficial, but it doesn't get the pump for the attacker health here.
Mm. What do you think of that TP scroll play there to back out the Darkseer?
I'm not quite sure. The Darkseer, I guess he didn't want to take tower. He figures Keith can go and do it himself, and he wants to kind of just try to stabilize. He looks in an okay spot in lane 2, but it could be largely problematic if the Lycan survives here with like the Reptile Signet.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more time you give them, it's going to be rough Sorlas.
Especially with no heroes spawning in next round for Hefeclumpin, you kind of know that you're not going to lose the left lane by TPing out the Darkseer.
Yep.
We did see the save on the Lycan on the left with the Signet Ring.
We did indeed. So we have an assault ladder here. I'd be interested to see if they toss us in lane 3. Playing the Savage Wolf here doesn't do it. They can't play the Savage Wolf in lane 3. They could potentially play it later in lane 1. But he goes with an Assassins.
I think he might be following up with No Accident to kill the Lycan.
That seems reasonable.
Selfish Cleric dropped. Amazing at trading into enemy creeps, which is going to be useful because enemy creeps with assault ladders are good to get rid of.
Definitely good to put it up to gum up a board with assault ladders. So we see No Accident go on the Selfish Cleric here.
Interesting to see him prioritize the removal of the creep over the removal of the hero.
Well, the hero comes back and the creep would have stayed there, so it makes realistic sense.
Mm-hmm. At least one of the Sorlas here is hitting that tower. there's no way for the red cards available to block that. So unfortunate for him. He would have kind of hoped for that Ursa that was surged over there to end up in front of the Khan. But enough magic played. So doesn't want to face any more damage pump being put into place.
So maybe potentially he was concerned with another Assault Ladder, or there's a One of Disciple of Nevermore, a Gloaty Vandal, or Ogladai. I don't know actually to say it. Do you know?
I've always said Ugloti, but I have no idea.
We'll find out. So the
If
question
you're,
I wanted to where this Dark Seer is going.
potentially mid, but then you're doubling up on the green cards. So maybe just toss it in the right lane, have some more playable blockers, get in front of that Sorlas.
Yep.
It is a lot of heroes.
If we include it with the damaging maul, it can trade with either Sorla. Actually, he just trades with either Sorla here in general because one of them has negative armor.
And while it is committing 3 heroes to the right lane, the Darkseer will have Surge coming up. So as long as he doesn't die, he will be able to readjust the hero deployment. Fountain Flask, putting that Lycan up to the very healthy total of 15. It's going to be useful. And that Enrage comes out, which, as I stated before the game begun, is extremely good in traits. 4 more armor and 4 more attack is no joke.
Agreed. Do you think we'll see the broadsword here to put Lycan down to 1? It doesn't.
I mean, he has poised to strike, so he could get enough pump for the kill.
Oh, he's going for it.
I think if you got him that low, you may as well broadsword at this point. I don't know
why. He might do Magicking Maul.
Yeah, but with the Assault Ladders already in mid, seems like a card you'd want to save.
Definitely, but yep. So we do see the broadsword. He does hold the Magicking Maul for future usage.
Keith, what a beast! 18, 5, and 4. So 2 Savage Wolves have been dropped this round, both in first lane and right lane, but immediately countered by that Satyr Duelist. Unfortunate for him. So yeah, it's actually looking like it's turning around. The green-black is losing a lot of trades this round. And with just Assault Ladders in hand, while Assault Ladders are great at pushing damage, they offer nothing in the trading game. So not a whole lot he can do here, except for drop that short sword on one of the cons to potentially pick up a kill.
So he's made an adjustment here, played Assault Ladders in lane 1. Which is going to be very good for the creeps going to tower. We'll see where this Debbie ends up going next round, but here we have both Sorlas dying, and both Ursas end up surviving because defensive bloom.
Interesting that he wouldn't commit the short sword there to kill the Darkseer. In my mind, it's worth it because you know the Surge is coming up next round, and you don't want him to be able to redeploy those 2 Ursas. I think it'd be better to get the gold from the Darkseer kill and then deny the Surge play and kind of keep all that hero value in the right lane.
My thinking of why he may allow it is just because keeping it low means a future no accident or pickoff could potentially take him down, especially he has 2 Keenfolk turrets, so he could definitely sneak one in from mid over to right lane and just take out the Darkseer, provided that no additional health or heals come in.
So Curse Satyr could be dropped here. Actually going with just to clear the deck to remove that wolf before it can get any bigger. If you're red-green, where do you put this Stonehall plate? Which hero do you think needs... Well, I guess we found out where we're putting it. Goes on to the Keef. Why do you think he prioritizes the Keef there?
Because I think the Keef might just stay in that lane alone, potentially, for a while. He's just been trucking there, and the Lycan's just running into creeps here, so there's not like a huge issue that he needs to answer right away.
That unfortunate Debbie, but the cloak does keep her out of death range. But every time a Debbie or a Sorla misses hitting the tower, you're a little bit sad.
Very much so, very much so. But I think when it comes to killing Crusader, you're perfectly fine with doing that. Not Satyr Duelist.
Yeah, Satyr Duelist. We got the Cursed Satyr in the hand currently.
Yep.
Actually chooses to TP out the Lycan. Probably a decent choice. He was only blocking 4 damage there. You're going to lose that lane no matter what in the next round. And now he can commit the Lycan to a more important lane. What's scary for him is that the red-green is already set up to take mid, and he can't really prevent that. But he's also got 3 heroes spawning next round now between the Lycan and the 2 Sorlas. It's going to be really hard to save that left lane.
Well, he could in theory spawn all 3 there and try to take that over, since lane 3 has...
Right.
Oh, now it's 2 and 2.
Which is, I guess, with the salt ladders in the left lane, I'm thinking that it's got to be scary for the red-green, knowing that 3 heroes can go into their next round. And if he loses either of those lanes, the game's over, because mid is just already lost.
Yep. So it's going to be a battle for lane 1 entirely, since 2 and 3 are pretty much taken over. So we'll end up seeing what ends up happening here if the Assault Ladders prevails, or if pretty much this mono red lane 1 can just overpower all of these Sorlas.
Looking like he's considering going for the Ancient kill. Not sure if he'll have the time. He does have another Assault Ladders to play, and a couple of Rebel Decoys to pump up that Assault Ladder damage as well. But with the left tower and the right tower both being relatively low, I think it's a bit of a risk.
So I think the Rebel Decoys are actually going to go in lane 3 to block up whatever damage is there. Since the Darkseer's ability won't be back up for the 2 rounds, this round and the next, then he should in theory have enough time to be able to take the Ancient.
I guess we'll end up finding out. He does get a Disciple of Nevermore draw, so his ability to push damage is certainly increased now between both the Disciple Assault Ladders and then whatever else he drops into lane. 8 health remaining on that left lane. Not looking healthy.
Yeah,
62.
So a drop of Disciple in general would have been 80, but there's no reason for him to do that here. So he drops Assault Ladders and a Keen Folk preemptively.
So at this point, you basically have to win this right lane now, or the game is over. Unless he, he doesn't have any means right now. Unless he draws a blink and could afford it, he wouldn't have a means to get anyone to that mid lane and save it in time.
Yep, and unfortunately, he has nothing in hand that can go and force that.
Yeah, and with 2 blockers in the green-black's hand, this actually looks like an easy 1 game. So, yep. And this is where you see the ability to think ahead in a game like Artifact is just the moves you can make is insane. Because there, it looks like you could trade in that left lane and potentially set up a win there. But he just did the math, knew that he could Ancient in 1 round, and knew that he had several blockers in his hand, and decided to go for it.
So the only thing that'll stop Hepiclump in here is some unfortunate kind of RNG with both creeps coming on the table, and then just like the crossing pattern, so they get attacked by 6 of the units would just completely stop that damage. And he has no removal in hand, so the Disciple would give him additional pumps, but he has to do a full 80. Luckily here, there's just a single creep that comes down, and it's only blocking a creep.
Yep, unfortunate for the red-green player. We do see that Mist of Avernus, which would have been amazing earlier on in the game. But unfortunately for the card, it's weak in late game, and unfortunately for the red-green player, there's really nothing he can do. The writing is on the wall. Going into game 2...
well, he doesn't know that he's dead yet.
True.
And the Disciple comes down.
And we're looking at 98 here. We do see that victory. So we will go ahead and be back with game 2. So we are on to game 2 here. With Hefeclumpen having taken game 1, is there anything that you'd like to see the red-green player do differently this round?
I'm actually just not sure. I'd like to see a bit more aggression. I think in the last lane he was being very passive and using Darkseer to move heroes preemptively to try to like control and take over multiple lanes. Whereas if he just kind of takes down a tower, then he could potentially try to use Darkseer to then force heavily into the additional tower. But he gave up mid lane, and then that became a huge problem when Sorlas came down and took the Ancient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely agree. If you're gonna give the Sorlacons with Assault Ladders any sort of time, you're in a world of hurt. I think you gotta bring the tower aggression early, because the Ancient aggression with red green, you don't have any sort of way to bring back a lane. You don't have wave clear of any sort, and if the game goes long, you're gonna be facing that Ancient condition. So a lot happens here. It's first round. Actually, the no accident to make the trade happen once again, same as the round 1 game. We did see the whatever that creep is called dropped in mid to give the Lycan buff as well, an additional 4 damage to the tower. The Rebel decoy.
Okay, got you.
Double creep spawn into the left lane is going to be strong for that red-green player. He's going to be able to set up a lot of early aggression onto that left tower. Potentially going to get a very early tower kill.
So we have Abaddon going in lane 3, who is pretty rock solid. He's just going to sit there and take hits and survive and keep trucking. As long as he doesn't run into an Ursa, then in theory it should be, near unkillable by the time that anything starts really happening.
Mm-hmm. And this is actually very poorly set up for the red-green player already. So I might pause to just give us a second to talk about this. He has 2 Sorlacons spawning in next round, and he has the creep and wave advantage on both the middle and the right lane. Potentially a lot of towers can be put onto the towers in both those lanes, because part of the issue is that if you have a wide board, it's much harder to get your heroes that spawn into it to spawn in front of those Sorlacons. And if your Ursas that he spawns in just hit like creeps, it's almost doing nothing, because the Sorla is still hitting for 12 damage to the tower. So I'm very concerned here already early on in the game for the red green player. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I definitely do. So Naiman's the red-green player. And one of the dilemmas is because he has 2 Ursas and a Keef, he has a total of 9 cards in the deck that just give him an attack and armor buff. So running into creep really doesn't do anything beneficial for him. It's going to be pretty important for him to force one of these towers down very quickly, and then try to block out the additional one. And seeing as lane 3 is going to lose 2 creeps based on what's currently there, it's very possible that the Sorlas come down in mid lane again. And I think it's actually at the point where red-green probably needed to really force having both the first and second lane, so that if they're doing a tower rush, then it's going to have to be in lane 3, and he has the additional time to actually take both towers in the same round prior to an Ancient going down.
And yeah, I agree. I think we may actually see the gank here into the mid lane to completely start snowballing that lane. Removing the Lycan before it gets there.
We'll find out.
Alternatively, he could conserve cards, even just use that pick off. But one thing
he can flip with the minion and kill Debbie after, while the creep dies to Debbie's attack. That in general would definitely instigate the gank.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to do as a black player is when I'm losing a lane to gank with whatever black hero I have there, because it is a semi-redeploy for that hero if it forces them to die early, and then it also helps you even harder when the other lanes, and then a couple rounds later it's going to come into that lane, and we just see the kill.
We get is in lane 3 versus the Darkseer.
Yeah, so definitely going to be a huge advantage in that lane with not only 3 creeps there, but no opposing heroes.
The question here is, does he try to prevent the 9 damage on Ursa, or does he go and just take the 2 damage, have a pretty healthy Ursa to kill the Debbie? I think I would have to leave my Ursa here to pretty much hit the tower hard enough where going into the next round he would have lethal, and that's what he does.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was wrong. Short by 1. No, he has it.
He does have lethal next round.
Yeah, it did the tower attack, and then post Debbie death it finally altered the additional 2.
Mm-hmm. So that is one nice thing about Artifact. It does a lot of the math for you and shows it to you on the screen. Very happy with the way that Valve has done a lot of these things in the UI. Another potential play we could see actually coming up in the next round is with Lycan dropping to only 2 health. I'm not sure he'd want to commit a Sorla away from it, from the lane, but he could just put a Sorla into the mid lane, try to keep initiative, and then start off with a pick-off to kill the Lycan immediately. Essentially denying 2 rounds for the Lycan, as he wouldn't be able to participate in combat then, or in the next round, as he'd be dead.
That is definitely possible. We'll likely see where these red heroes end up going. I think we're probably going to see them split one mid, one right lane. But I think Ursa's probably going to go into the right lane with Keith mid. The Sorlas indeed do get split.
He does get a fortunate creep spawn. Actually, both players get fortunate creep spawns for delaying the tower damage with double creeps into the lanes they're losing. Yeah, and with that in mind, he's actually going to commit both of the red heroes into mid, counting on his creeps to just slow down that right lane long enough for it to not be Ancient killed.
Yep, this will potentially put him in position to take both towers prior to losing an Ancient as well. So we'll end up seeing how this goes down. A bunch of fighting instances in hands, and he now draws an Enrage. So he's going to be in a pretty good spot combat-wise, but Lycan is pretty much doomed to die unless the salve can save him.
We should see a Poise to Strike come out here, most likely, to just give you that slight boost of damage for killing the tower. Beyond that, I don't think his other option would be to drop the Cursed Satyr. I don't know which play you prefer. I think in my mind, keeping the blocker for later on in the game is much better, and just using the Poise to Strike now.
You could also play the Enrage if you felt like you wanted to be able to have that for an addition, a round later. But he goes with the Fighting Instinct and decides to play the Damaging Maul to take the tower. This way, you can keep Enrage and Poise to Strike for potentially round 2.
Yeah, especially since while Poise to Strike in some ways is a weak card because it gives up a lot of potentials in that it's just a 1 mana card. It doesn't do a whole lot, but being a 1 mana card, it can add a lot of unexpected damage when you're trading and the opponent thinks he only has 1 mana, he can't do anything, feels safe in spending their mana, and then you Poise to Strike whatever may be hitting the tower or something along those lines. And the Divine Intervention is really rough here.
Yeah, so this definitely messes up his plans. I expect to see a Fighting Instinct here now instead, unless he's willing to do a pick-a-fight to kind of just draw the aggro to Keith or Ursa. But I think we're just going to see a Fighting Instinct here, which is not going to put him in a good place because he really, really needed to take care of this lane immediately.
Interesting that he should salve here. With that play, I think it screams that he's going to commit something else to... Yep, the pick-a-fight. He wants that Lycan alive. Keeping both red and green cards playable in that round.
Seems relatively reasonable because he wanted access to Defensive Bloom.
Do we see a pick-off here or just an Assault Ladders committed? I think he might just Assault Ladders and get that Ancient condition going.
So something I didn't mention in lane 2 was because he had Rebel Decoy, I think he definitely could have considered moving the Lycan with the Rebel Decoy if he didn't need the additional damage, just so that in the future round he could move the Rebel Decoy with the Sorla to then potentially hit tower if a creep didn't spawn here. But either way, it gave him the additional damage from the Lycan.
Yeah, I guess he wanted to keep the cooldown available.
It's a cooldown of 1, so he had it available no matter what.
The Darkseer is going to that left lane, so likely going to be moving that incredibly beefy Ursa with the Phase Boots, Demagic and Maul over into the mid lane. The only alternative is actually going for the Ancient Kill himself, but I'm not sure he has the cards to support it right now.
So the only potential thing that I wasn't a big fan of there was he already knew he had the Defensive Bloom in hand. So if he started with Darkseer in lane 3, he could have potentially defensive bloomed to try to tank part of the tower damage that was going to go on. But seemingly he's just going to cast this in mid lane to prevent that from kind of degrading to a very bad state. But I don't think that gets him to a win, which could potentially be a problem.
Drops the Cursed Satyr. So, potentially a lot of extra damage to the tower, but it could also end up just blocking higher damage units with that spawned zombie each round. But it's actually surged over. So, surging the Cursed Satyr into mid to tank some damage. I think he is just going for the hopeful Ancient win. He's fortunate that this is the left lane, so it's going to happen first. But we will see whether he can actually outrace the middle and right lane of the green-black.
I have a minor concern with the Crusader going over, because I think that he might have needed to kind of YOLO a bit more and keep the additional 4 damage, and instead shift over one of the creeps that's being blocked that was not going to die. So then at least he lost a creep that would have died, and then he's still getting the additional 4, and then he just needs to, pretty much avoid that zombie coming in and kind of ruining him. It's not the best of plays, but it's the most realistic one if you're trying to YOLO a little bit more, because the damage he has right now was 24. So if instead it was 28, then 28 times 3 round clock. He has an Ursa coming in, so like he definitely could have went with that and try to bypass it a bit. But we'll end up seeing how this ends up going down. I think we're going to see a defensive bloom in mid lane to try to give him the time that he needs.
The Rebel Decoy is definitely going to be traded with the Debbie here to be able to hit the tower.
I don't like the Ion Shell play there. The Ion Shell play only gives him 3 additional damage. I think I would defensive bloom.
I mean, you can do both.
Yeah, but the thing is you can Ion Shell. You can Ion Shell at any point. So I guess you want a defensive bloom to force the Rebel Decoy, but the opponent was going to Rebel Decoy anyways because he doesn't want his Sorla to die.
Well, we do see a successful delay, at least in the mid. So potentially looking like Naiman may actually hold on long enough. That's actually a really good move there. Pointing the Debbie away from the Crusader to hit that Keef is going to allow him to get another 2/2 unit in the mid lane. And with 2 Assault Ladders in his hand, that 2/2 unit is potentially a lot of damage.
Yeah, see, like part of my other issue here was that if he kept the Ion Shell, he could have put it on the Crusader to then trade with Debbie. Or kill Debbie. Actually, sorry, he wasn't going to take damage, so he could not kill Debbie with that. My apologies.
I mean, he could have put it on the Keef.
Fair enough.
But in any case, we could see multiple Assault Ladders played into mid from this lane here.
No, we're going to definitely see the pickoff onto Lycan. He's got 4 health left. 4 was going to take him out. And then we can see the Assault Ladder going mid.
Seems...
In theory, he could also set up a 2-turn clock on the Ancient as well.
He actually commits the Keenfolk turret to the far left lane. I'm not sure what I think of that play. It seems extremely defensive. But if he thinks that's going to be enough to... Whoa, I see why. That's going to kill the Standard Bearer, which will deny 8 damage, potentially. But at the same time, that pickoff could have also almost guaranteed the mid lane kill. Because the red color has almost no blockers in their list. Unless I'm incorrect about that.
In theory, their pickoff into double Assault Ladders would also have done it, but I guess they're pretty content with just having the single Assault Ladder and the pickoff. But if Naiman had a heal, which he does have in hand, then he could potentially save his Lycan from dying to the pickoff. We now know that there's a gank as well, but the gank wasn't there originally. So an early pickoff could have definitely gave him the additional time.
That was an extremely fortunate draw there to get the smash their defenses for killing the Keenfolk turret. maintaining that 8 damage for the red.
There was
For
he
green.
has up to Magicking Maul. He didn't need to go smash the defenses. So
Interesting.
part of the reason for doing the Keenfolk turret there is to have your opponent use the Magicking Maul, because he's threatening the Legion stand bearer there. So it'll give him the priority to then go and pick off Lycan here.
Mm-hmm. At the same point, though, he could have just picked off from the far right lane, so potentially just a waste of a card. I'm not sure that I agree with the play of the Keenfolk turret.
Well, one thing that it does here, it gives you an additional round of not having Lycan available. So by killing him during this round and then being able to hit tower, Lycan doesn't come up for 2 rounds. Whereas if he did it last round, then it would have only been gone for this round.
Mm-hmm.
And he still has the potential to just go even just a single assault ladder in lane 3 to do 40 damage, because if I'm not mistaken, he has 28 right now for it. So that would set him up for a 2-round clock, but he'd still cast 2 assault ladders, I believe, there just to get it. Actually, a single assault ladder here would put him to 22.
22. And with that Keenfolk musket, he actually has the damage to kill this tower right now.
Win. Yep.
Exact damage here.
So we saw, what, a gank there of the Sorla versus the Ursa? Oh, no, Debbie versus Ursa.
Mm-hmm. It's actually really unfortunate for the red-green player here that he doesn't have a green blocker available in hand. His only blocker being the Mercenary Exiles this round.
And this was really brought in because he decided to go and kill the Keenfolk turret to maintain his damage in order to try to take the Ancient here.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, the gank got drawn and it changed the entire clock of the tempo. So Joel or Hefeklumpen ends up taking game 2, and that's the end of the set.
So what are your thoughts on how these games played out? Do you think that Sorla Khan is just... I mean, at least in my opinion, Sorla Khan is just crazy in draft, and with the red-green player having very few ways to actually target down specific heroes and remove those Sorlas, and in fact very few blockers available in red. Do you think it was just a lost match from the beginning, or do you think there's something he could have played better?
I think because of the hero lineup, this was a lost match from the beginning. Like, red-green in general might be okay in the match, but a Keef and 2 Ursas versus pretty much trying to go wide in Sorlas with assault ladders definitely does not spell a recipe for success. Just because you don't have enough of outside damage to go and take creep or heroes down and out of the way, and you can just win fights. And if you just line up against creep over and over, it's going to be over, because Sorla's going to pretty much 3-shot the tower with the help of any creeper assault ladder.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree. I think his best hope was for good early placements with his units lined up against theirs, win those engagements with the enrages, and then turn it into a win from there. But beyond that, as you stated, with the Sorlas just wanting to go wide and avoid your units, and having 3 of your signature cards being only relevant in direct combat, it's just incredibly rough.
Yep, and it was just kind of unfortunate too, because Joel had started with a no accident both games to be able to trade the Sorla with the Ursa. So he did get that favorable lineup in what looked like lane 3 every time, but there was always a no accident there waiting for him.
Sad days. But congratulations to Joel Larsson for winning that quarterfinal. And thanks for watching, guys. If you have advice about what you want to see as we do these commentaries, whether you want more analysis, more commentary, more pauses to talk through lines of play, whatever it may be, let us know. We'll be looking to do a few more of these videos from the tournament. I doubt that we'll get to all of them. But if you have any specific matches you'd like to see, let us know, and we'll do our best. And thanks for listening, and thanks for watching. And we will see you guys next time.
Deuces.